Hello and welcome to A Woman's Heart. Today we are privileged. We have Melissa Rymer with us today. And thanks so much for joining us today, Melissa.
Lisa, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
You are very welcome. I am looking forward to this conversation because I really think it is going to help some people learn and grow and just break free. And there's just going to be so much good stuff. As I mentioned, we could probably talk for hours on all the information that we could go over, but we'll try to keep it close. But real quick, before we dive into all of that, I would love to get to know you a little bit better, let my audience get to know you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and something fun that isn't normally in your bio.
Okay. All right. Well, I am married to my fellow co-founder of Victim to Warrior Method,
Mhm.
which is a mission-driven business that we started a couple years ago after retiring from the financial industry. But before we even met, we were both in very abusive marriages, and mine was so horrific that it nearly destroyed me. I mean, mentally, physically, financially. And honestly, my faith is the only thing that got me through it. God is the only thing that got me through those dark days. And I remember praying, just, why are you letting this happen? Why is this happening to me?
Mhm.
And I think people that go through these dark seasons in their life, no matter what it is, and they have faith, they wonder if God's listening or has he just, turned his back on them, which is absolutely not. But you can become very desperate and you can become very like, where are you? And you may not know then why you go through something. Like I did not know why I was going through what I had to go through.
Mhm.
I do now. I do
Yeah.
now. Years later, I do
Yes.
now. But I remember right before we launched our company, my husband and I took a trip to Mexico. We were there for a couple of months. We took our dogs. We were like nomads on the beach.
Oh,
And we
wow.
did a lot of soul searching, a lot of praying, a lot of beach walks, a lot of meditating. And I remember almost on the last day of our trip, I was praying on the beach, and this powerful emotion came over me.
Hmm.
And I believe that I literally felt God calling me to help women that are in these types of situations where they think there is no help, there's no hope, the darkness is overtaking them, um, as a way to not just survive it, but to thrive on the other end, to actually get through the darkness. To the light where he is, where he hasn't abandoned them. So asked John, I said, John, you think we can turn our life experiences into something that can help others? And he was all in. So we came back, we launched the business, but one of the biggest impacts our business had, because abuse takes many forms. It's not
Yeah.
always physical, it's
Hmm.
psychological, emotional,
Yeah.
financial. And we started reenacting what it looked like on our social media channels, where people could actually see. And that is where that breakthrough happened because I've had so many, we also have a coaching business. I've had so many clients tell me, Jesus put you in my life. I didn't know who you were. I
Mm.
was crying. I was desperate. I needed something, some hope. And you just popped up on my feed. And so we've shared a lot of stories about how Jesus is working with our business and leading us to people that have faith and they are reaching out for help. And so that was one of the aha moments that we had, was letting people see what it looks like. They're not crazy, they're not imagining it, because when it's
Yeah.
not physical, it's very hard to detect that this perfect looking family
Hmm.
is not really
Yeah.
perfect on the inside. It's actually
Yeah.
a nightmare going on in the inside. And many times they don't, people don't believe the victims because it looks so normal.
Yeah.
So that is where that's where the concept came from. That's how we launched it. And we, as you know, we have a podcast where we actually kind of dig deep into certain topics where people can understand what it looks like and ways to combat it.
Yeah, you
And
do a
then
nice
our
job of defining different aspects of it and then giving keys or tips on how to combat it, how to work through it, how to heal from it. You do a nice job with that.
Thank you. Because understanding it's one thing, but actually taking steps to do something about it is
Mhm.
another thing. But watching our clients go from just being so broken to actually having hope and thriving, and then coming out on the other end as a new person is just it's painful, but it's very rewarding. So it wasn't what I thought we would be doing in our retirement, but it's what God put on our hearts. And I'm like, this is it. This is it,
Yes.
babe. So
Yes.
we plowed forward with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, and that time on the beach, that sounds very different
yeah.
and really just really sounds very, very powerful. And as you mentioned, one of the things that I wanted to go over, because sometimes when you listen to the different aspects of a narcissist and different things, there's overt, there's covert, there's all different kinds of things that sometimes we kind of go, oh, I was listening to different definitions and I'm like, well, I've done that too on occasion.
Yep.
So I
Sure.
think there's things that we all have, days, moments, situations that we don't handle well, or maybe I would call them selfish tendencies. But where is it that it crosses that line? It's not just that you've had a bad day or that you're feeling a little selfish in that moment, that it's actually crossed that line. What are some of those differences to help us notice the difference?
Well, and that's a great question because we all have traits that are annoying and
Hmm.
frustrating, like you said.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily make us a narcissist or narcissistic personality disorder. But one of the things John and I created was actually a questionnaire. It's free. We'll give it to your audience. It's
Hmm.
Are they a narcissist? And it's a questionnaire that helps someone identify specific questions. If you're concerned about someone in your life, or maybe even your own behavior, you can actually take this quiz and it will rate you and it will tell you whether you have just annoying tendencies or maybe you've got some really serious issues, or do you really just have no conscience? Because there's no cure for it. But what I have found that is very, very common among people with narcissistic personality disorder is they actually don't care. They really don't. They
Wow.
don't care about hurting another individual. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care if they physically hurt you, if they mentally hurt you. They only want what you can give them. And I call them life vampires. I mean, and I
Yeah.
know that's a harsh term, but
Hmm.
they will drain the life out of you
Yeah.
because they only want what you can bring into their life. And I don't care who I talk to that has been in one of these relationships. When I ask them, what have you gotten back? They love children. Thank you. We get our children. But as far as the relationship goes, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. You're just exhausted physically,
Wow.
emotionally. So it takes a toll on people. And it's very hard to break that bond because there are moments of goodness in it, like when you first met them. They're not nasty and mean when we first meet them.
Hmm.
When we first meet them, they listen, they love bomb, they pay attention, you're their soulmate. And that wears off. Once you fall in love with that person, it's like that person disappears. They're gone from the scene. And
Hmm.
you spend so many years trying to get back to that person because you think you can fix it,
Yeah.
but you can't. And so taking that questionnaire actually, solves a lot of questions in people's minds about what they're going through and is this person potentially a narcissist or, have a narcissistic personality disorder or something worse.
Yeah, yeah. And what are some of those red flags? Like if you are meeting somebody for the first time, dating or friendship or work or whatever, and then what are some of those flags that if you notice a loved one is getting into a relationship, what are some of those red flags that you look for and you go, oh, wait a minute, you don't want to explain them away because sometimes we
Right.
easily explain them away and minimize them and go, oh, well, it was just a bad day. But there's some red flags there usually that pop up that we need to take seriously and not dismiss.
Yes. And, one phrase that I tell people is when someone's words and actions don't align,
Yeah.
that is the biggest red flag that you can ignore. Because when you think about yourself, when you say something, I'm going to do this, or this is about me, you generally do it. Now, if you might be late doing it, you might procrastinate, but you don't say something and do something opposite. Almost always, there's the red flags that we somehow explain away because this person seems so attentive, they seem so interested, we seem to have so much in common. But so we start ignoring, they said this, but they're doing this. And when we ask about why they're doing this, somehow it becomes, well, are you questioning me? Why are you so insecure? And they start deflecting it and they push back on you. And then you're like, maybe that was intrusive. Well, maybe I jumped to the wrong conclusion. It starts small,
Mm-hmm.
but it will continue with that pattern. Words and actions do not align. They never align. They might kiss and then they separate. And when you question it, that's when they deflect and they start reversing that blame to make you start questioning whether or not that really happened.
Yeah.
Gaslighting. So it starts small, but and I'll tell people when someone continue and anyone, friend, relationship, dating, when someone says something and their actions are different, be cautious. One of the things that with social media now, when someone you meet someone, they generally have a social media present, there's
Yeah.
Instagram,
Most people
Facebook,
do
whatever.
of some
Yeah.
sort. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you've met this person and they say they love going to the beach, well, check out their social media pages because if they have no photos of the beach, chances are they're lying.
All
Mine,
their photos are
I
mountains.
Yes. It was like he snow skied, but he said he loved the beach. He loved yoga. There was no photo, but I didn't know. I didn't know to look. I didn't know to challenge that. It just sounded so good because he was listening to me and he was mirroring. He was literally, that's one of these narcissistic, what we call dictionary words, is they mirror what in the beginning they listen and then they mirror you because they want you to believe you have so much in common. But
Mhm.
if you don't take it just a step further, especially when things are not sitting quite right, and just look, ask their friends, go to their church. If they don't have a church, if they don't have friends, if their family's disconnected, those are all red flags. And I'm not saying one or the other might be explainable. When they start adding up,
Yeah.
those are things you can't ignore. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to take the time to go, you know what? I'm not in it so far where I can't back up because I'm not getting the explanations that would be reasonable and logical.
Yeah, well, and when you pointed out it's one and then the other and then the other, it starts to become a pattern. It's not an exception to the rule. It starts
Right.
to become a pattern. And that's when you go, oh, wait a minute. This one thing, like you said, they're disconnected from their family. Well, that could be because their family was very difficult and they had to set some boundaries in order for
Right.
them to live a different and healthier life. Or there's any number of reasons why, but when you add that plus the other, and you start seeing that. And one of the other things when you mentioned that they listen at the very beginning, and it sounds so good, and then like I think of it like a spider with the web. You kind of get stuck a little bit, and then the more you get into it, the more and more you're wrapped up. Because if they had started out full blown, you never would have stayed. But then all of a sudden, you end up and you wonder, how in the world did I get here? And so many times I have heard women or that I've seen wonderful, beautiful, smart, talented women. They find themselves embroiled in this horrible situation and they just kind of like, how in the world did I get here?
Yeah.
Because they're so good at it. And I kind of want to have you release them from that shame
Oh,
because
yes.
it wasn't necessarily anything that they did wrong. If anything, it's everything they did right that
It,
made them a target.
they were. Lisa,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. A narcissist is not going to go after someone that can't bring something into their life. So they do go after successful people. They do go after people that have, family influence or business influence or a huge community in the. They go after someone that can add to their life and not just a partner where we're like, well, we want to complement each other's life. No, they want what you have to improve their life. I was an executive with a huge company. I ran a big company. And I remember people would say, how in the world did you fall for that? I'm like, well, I didn't wake up and go, oh my gosh, you are the devil. Let me marry you still. It's like one of those things where it's the
Hmm.
gradual thing, but
Yeah.
it's when you're too busy or it sounds really good and lonely and you meet this person who starts talking your language. They're talking your love language in the beginning. And
Yeah.
it seems like, wow, you get me. We could do this together. This, that. You start envisioning something because that's what they're putting in your head. They're putting this future projection in your head. This is what it could look like when we're together. And they're talking about things that you've said that are important to you. Those are also the things that they weaponize against you after you get into the relationship. So it's such a twisted blade because what you fell so hard for them for, they will absolutely use that against you
Mm,
as a way to, manipulate you, make you insecure, make you lose your confidence, make you doubt who you are as a person. And after a long period of time of going through that, it does chip away your self-esteem. You
yeah.
do self-isolate. You might stop going to church. You might stop praying. You might just say, you know what, I'm just going to be as small as possible to keep the peace. And it's sad because it strips you of everything you were as a person when you met them. I
Yeah.
didn't even recognize myself when I finally got out of it, you
Wow.
know?
Yeah, as you mentioned, they come in and they want something and they will suck everything out of you. I mean, they will just suck
Yes.
all of that. And then how do you, one of the episodes that I mentioned that I liked was how to reconnect with yourself. How do you, when you've realized, wait a minute, this isn't right. How do you get out and then reconnect with yourself and realize that God wasn't, distant. He did hear you and that he can use this kind of mess because I can only imagine after being such a shell after an experience like this, it's hard to think that you have anything left to give. And that's not true.
And that is, you're so right. And it was something that I thought, I was so shattered, so broken. What could I offer? But I was able to get through it. And what I did, one of the things that people it's the hardest part. You have to break that bond. And because sometimes you can't fully break it because you have children with them, but the setting the boundaries and actually um, deciding this is recognizing these patterns because at first they seem random. They don't seem like they're predictable, but they start becoming predictable. You start walking on eggshells about this or that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things is journaling. And, people hear me talk about it all the time. You don't have to be a good writer to journal. Journaling gets things out of here onto paper because you bottle things up. You're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to share your feelings. And so if I didn't journal, I think I would have lost my mind because
Mm-hmm.
I journaled for years and years because I needed to know the truth. And I would write out my prayers in my journal. I always tell people guard it with your life, but writing things down becomes your truth, your reality. This is your words. And so when you hear something over here and you've written something down, it's totally different. This is when you start believing your words, not their words. And breaking that bond is difficult because you have to recognize this is abusive. This is destroying my life. This is ruining our family and making that first step forward. But journaling helps people realize it helps people realize where they are and what they are experiencing. And this is not a random pattern because they're in survival mode, fight or flight, and they're not thinking with clarity. So, journaling is a huge help to people and actually recognizing what they're going through and then just taking these small steps to move from there forward. And then getting to the other side, I have people, I have one woman, she's 75 years old. She got a divorce after 50 years.
Oh my
And
word. Oh
50
wow.
years. And she's been with me 2 years and she is now helping other women, older women that are in this situation to
Oh
actually
my
see
goodness.
there is help on the other. This isn't your life. This is not something that you're just,
Mm.
going to have to put up with the abuse for the rest of your life. And so, seeing her actually she's writing her own book and it's amazing to see somebody go from that broken to like I said over here. But
Yeah.
one step is recognizing what you are going through is not normal and also not blaming yourself because
Yeah.
if anything, it was the goodness inside of you. It was the spark. It was your spirit and all of that is still there. It's just buried. So being able to look at yourself. And what I tell people is write the things that you loved about yourself the most when you met this person, whatever that was. I mean, I love to paint. I love to work out. I love nature. I love going, that's, oh, my fun fact. I'll tell you that when I brought nature up. But I started writing things down about things that I loved it because there were so many things I hated about myself. At the end of it, I'm like, how did I get here? So I
Yeah.
started writing things about who I was back then, recognizing that's you. You're still there. You
Yeah.
just have to dig deep inside and pray about it. But little things on that list, just starting to paint again, going back outside, working out, the little things that I started taking back of my life, breathing again, just praying, picking up your Bible, you know, um, reaching back out to people that you lost contact with, people in your church, maybe,
Yeah.
there's so many people that we shut out when we're going through abuse because we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to lie anymore. We don't want to excuse their behavior. We don't want to make excuses as to why we're still there. So we isolate ourselves, which makes it so much more difficult to get through. So I
Mhm.
always tell people, reach out to at least one person that you may have shut out of your life that really cares about you and loves you. They
Yeah.
still care about you and love you.
Yeah, they do. Well, and as I mentioned before we started recording, that the whole idea of reconnecting with yourself can apply to this situation and so many others, because even if you haven't been through this, there are other situations. As I mentioned, I was a stay-at-home mom for years. And so my life was all about the kids and what they were doing and what their schedules were. And there are other situations that we can have in life, other traumas that we can kind of lose ourselves in that, and then we forget who we really are. And then being able to reconnect with the things that you enjoyed and the things that you love and really kind of, I guess, blossom and be able to come
Yeah.
out of your shell and really find some of those purposes. And that's one of the things that I also wanted to ask you, that when we go through something like that, we think our story's over, and God can use that so much, that's not the end of our story. And it's so important to share. And that's one of the reasons that I appreciate your speaking up, and you have so many resources out there to help other people, because that was not the end of your story. You used your voice and you were obedient to that call to set out and do that. And I would love to know what, more about how do you do that and encourage women that it's not the end of their story. They still have so much more life left.
They absolutely do. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been. Most of my clients have been married 20 years. So
Wow.
in 20 years of that type of abuse, where you have literally poured your life and soul into the other person. And so if you even like, I'll have some women say, well, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what. And I'm like, you know what? Write something down that you actually want to do. Like, maybe you want to sing. Maybe you don't know how, but you want to. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to learn how to dance. What is something that, when you think about it, brings you a smile on your face? Maybe you want to go on a retreat or a hiking trip or something. Just pick one thing out that either you did and you had to give up because it just became too much because they take so much of your time, you don't have time for yourself, or something that you always wanted to do. What is that? Because when someone has hope on a path, it can take them out of this fog that they're in now and actually start making these small goals to get to that one thing, or back to that one strength that they had, or something they want to have, because the sky's the limit. I mean, with what you can do or what you want to do. And so when people look at something that they went through, that doesn't define who you are. You didn't ask for that. You didn't
No.
willingly go into that path. And beating yourself up for staying, there's millions of reasons why people stay.
Yeah.
And people that have never been through it don't really understand that. But there is no shame in that. So forgiving yourself, just saying, I'm going to give myself some grace and I'm going to forgive myself for the blame that I put on myself, for whatever it is that's holding me back from moving to the next step. Because one step forward is somebody else's hope, it's somebody else's inspiration. I mean, we have a community, our Facebook group, it's global, and there's probably over 5,000 people in there.
Wow.
One story, one comment can be what somebody else just went through and they got out of it. And they're, reaching back to say, why don't you try this?
Yeah.
Or they're in it and someone else is like just coming in. It's like, you know what? We're going to go through this together. So having a community where you can actually talk, it's safe, it's anonymous. That is a big thing too. That definitely helps a lot of our followers is joining our private Facebook group, which will give you that link. Like I said, it's anonymous, private. You can't find it. You have to have the link, but it's a safe place to talk about anything. And it's a place where people will encourage you. They will encourage you to take that step and not give up.
Good. Well, and along those lines is I always like to ask the question. I do believe that God has placed something precious and powerful in every woman's heart. And what would you say to encourage someone to step out and pursue that passion that God has placed in their heart?
Well, I would just say, praying about it with an open mind. Sometimes you don't know what to pray about, but sometimes just praying about, God, can you just place on my heart what would be your will for me? How can I inspire others? How can I bring someone out of the darkness? That is exactly the prayer I was praying when it came upon me. Take your darkness and turn it into someone else's light. And so women are strong. We're
Yeah.
resilient. I mean, we
Hmm.
get through childbirth and we do it again. It's like, what is happening there? But I women are so resilient and so strong that I believe actually praying about it, reaching deep in your soul and just saying, just show me what it looks like. Even if you have to pray that prayer over and over, having open mind because God will speak to you. He will bring something into you that you can actually hold on to and say, you know what? I'm actually going to take that one little step forward. And there's so many other women that will be right behind you, pushing you. Come on, let's go. Let's do this together. So,
That's great. Well, and I know, Melissa, you have a lot of resources. You just came out with like the ultimate guide to victim to warrior, the ultimate guide for narcissistic abuse recovery. You also have, we've mentioned the podcast. You've got some other free resources in that. Just let us know what is the best way to connect with you and connect our listener that needs some of these resources with them.
well, if they go to our website, victimtowarriormethod.com, everything on there is about a journey that they may be on. If they need one-on-one support, obviously they can have that. I'm also a divorce recovery coach, so
Mhm.
people going through that became later because there's so much financial abuse. Um,
Yeah.
but there are their one-on-one resources. There are our blogs, our podcasts, our books, all of our videos. That's a good place for people to actually start looking and just watching is if they know something's wrong or taking the quiz. I mean, that's on our website as well, and our private Facebook groups on there. So our website's
Yeah.
probably the best place to get to every one of our resources. And you can actually navigate through it and find just where you are. And there's actually a quiz right at the top of the navigation bar. It's a 2-minute quiz. If you don't know where you are, it actually kind of walks you through it, asks you some
Okay.
questions, and then it will direct you to a specific resource that you're looking for if just kind of describe what you're going through. But um, it's so much better to not have to go through this alone. And that's what I always tell people. You are not alone in this. There are a community of warriors, what we call them, that
Mhm.
are ready to just reach in there and pull you along the way too.
Yeah.
So you too can get out of this season and be someone else's hope and inspiration. That's also where they might be right now. They can be on the other end of it. So.
Hmm. Well, we will encourage people to check out your website and take advantage of some of those resources. And I was right. There's so many other things that we could have spoken about. There's so much more there. But I really think that this conversation is going to help somebody and give them what they need to either seek out the community they need or take one of those steps and to start to healing. And so I appreciate your willingness to listen to God and be obedient and can reach out and then reach back to help other women. And I appreciate your taking the time to speak with us today.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I hope I was able to bring some inspiration to your listeners as well.